In the first episode of the Co-op Critics Party Chat, Nick and I are going to talk about why we are picking up the Nintendo Switch at launch. And welcome everybody to the first installment of the Co-op Party Chat. This is Brian here with Nick as usual. How are you today, sir?
Doing excellent.
So this is a bit of a new format for us because normally we do the monthly Co-op Critics audio podcast that we post about on the site, that's on Spreaker, that's on iTunes and all that kind of stuff. And what we wanted to do starting in 2017 is involve the YouTube channel a little bit more. So what we're going to be doing is a series of conversations over the course of every month that we will be putting out on Spreaker and putting out on iTunes, but also featuring on our YouTube page. And so this is the first one of those, and it's sort of timely because we are less than 2 weeks now away from the launch of the Nintendo Switch. And I don't know about you, but I have been following a lot of the pre-release leaks and news. There was somebody got an early version of the Switch and it turned out that it was stolen. I don't know. Have you been following the news of the Switch leading up to release?
Yeah, I have been. I saw that someone initially said that theirs got shipped to them early and then Nintendo claimed that it was actually stolen. I didn't watch the video of like the user interface or anything like that. But I've been following it, not super closely, but close enough to just have a good idea of what I'm going to be getting myself into.
Well, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because in addition to some of these leaks that have come out, there's also been a lot of talk about whether or not the Switch is worth pre-ordering and whether or not, people are feeling like Nintendo is dropping the ball with the Switch, or if it's, going to be much more successful than the Wii U. I pre-ordered my Switch the day they went on pre-order, the day they were available, which I think was the 13th. That was when they did their little event where they sort of went through. Now, had I not seen that, I still would have pre-ordered the Switch. Like, for me, it was never a doubt that I was going to pre-order this thing, that I wanted to get it at launch. A, because we have Co-op Critics and we want to be able to talk about what is new, but B, because I'm a lifelong Nintendo fan. So you're picking up a Switch at launch as well, right?
Right. I didn't pre-order it because my wife and I are actually moving, and so I wasn't sure where we were going to be. And so I was afraid of pre-ordering it and getting all that, or having to worry about all that stuff. But I probably will just go try to pick one up at launch, as long as it's not like the Nintendo Classic debacle where you still can't find them on shelves.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, like, but we're both in agreement that we want one at launch. Like, I've pre-ordered it, you plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're both planning on getting it at launch, right? So there was no hesitation on your part of, I'll wait until, the holidays, or I'll wait for the bundle. You were pretty set from the beginning that you were going to pick one up at launch.
Yeah, because just like you, I am a lifelong Nintendo fan. I've owned every Nintendo console. I still play my 3DS a lot. I'll still play my Wii U. But it's just something that, even if I would have been disappointed by the stuff that I saw on the Switch, on their presentation, I probably still would have bought it just to give Nintendo a chance. And for a lot of people, I think it's like you buy a Nintendo console less for, like, for the Wii and for the Wii U and now for the Switch, it's less for what people would call the gimmicks and more for the games. Because I really want to play the new Zelda. I'm definitely going to want to play the new Mario, the new 3D Mario that's coming out. So, I mean, I'm going to get one regardless of whatever the gimmicks are.
Right. And I'm in the same boat as you. And I think that, that's not to say that I'm not concerned about some of the things that I haven't heard from Nintendo yet, and even some of the things that I have heard from Nintendo. Like, clearly they have not been super forthcoming about their online strategy. what is the online service going to look like? Exactly how much is it going to cost? We know that we will get the ability to play a classic Nintendo game for the month each month, and then it kind of goes back into their library and you get a new one the next month as long as you're a subscriber to the service. But we've heard rumors of the phone app that's going to be needed to do some of the to sort of execute some of the features of this online system. And so the thing that concerns me about all of that is not even necessarily the use of the phone. Everybody has a phone. Like, it's not that they're taking a different approach. It's more that we are less than 14 days away from the launch of this thing. And as people listen to this, it'll be like a week away. And we don't have a clear vision for what that stuff looks like yet. So now, granted, we don't need that for Zelda. Like we're not going to need that the day that the console launches. I'm not going to need to jump on and play multiplayer. I'm not going to be playing the next Call of Duty on the Nintendo Switch.
Right.
But one of the biggest faults, or one of the biggest problems that people had with the Wii U, was the lack of a real online strategy. And so to have them not have a clear vision for that, or not be articulating that vision to us as the consumers of that as we get ready to launch the Switch, is a bit concerning. I mean, do you care about multiplayer? Do you care about the online service for the Switch, or no?
I mean, I do, but it's another instance where that's not my main concern when I'm buying a Nintendo console. And that's probably a lot to do with the fact that, like you said, the Wii had pretty much no online capabilities, and the Wii U was very limited in its online capabilities in terms of just multiplayer and matchmaking and those kind of things. So you just kind of learn to not really expect it from Nintendo. And not to say that that's a good thing. I really wish that Nintendo would be more, I don't know. It's almost like they're trying to be so progressive in some areas and like come up with all these new ideas and innovative stuff. But the things that people really want, like the online stuff, they're just kind of dropping the ball on. And that's just kind of been their MO for the last decade.
Well, and I feel like they have stuff that has worked that they're not necessarily carrying over to the Switch, right? Like you and I, who have been to New York Comic Con several times, like we bring our 3DSs with us and we do the Street Pass thing, and we get hundreds and hundreds of Street Passes when we're there. When you look at the Miiverse on the Wii U, where people could leave drawings and they could leave tips in different games and stuff like that, almost like in a Dark Souls sort of way, like that was cool and very Nintendo-y type of stuff that I would love to have seen on the Switch. I would love to have Street Pass on the Switch. I would love to have, Miiverse on the Switch, because for me, I'm not comparing the Switch to the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. In my mind, I'm comparing the Switch to the PlayStation Vita. And so this, for me, is like what I wanted the Vita to be. And so I kind of wish that we were taking the cool stuff that Nintendo has done in the past with some of their online and some of their sort of multiplayer stuff and bringing it to the Switch. But it seems like they're almost clean slating it and starting over from scratch.
Yeah, that seems to be kind of what they're saying. But I liked a lot of the things they did with the Wii U for the online things, like the Miiverse and stuff. Now, that was less about actually online, like playing online with your friends, and more about just kind of an online interaction with people. And I understand Nintendo's always said that they want to keep it clean. And I think that may be kind of what prevents them from just going full in on something like Xbox Live and just allowing a lot of the same kind of features that Xbox Live or a PlayStation Online or whatever would have. But I feel like they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot when they don't at least offer that for certain people that can't afford to have multiple consoles.
And not only that, and I totally agree with you, I think that they shoot themselves in the foot when they don't offer it because of the perception that it gives people that this is somehow a lesser experience than the other ones. Because, like, for example, I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that I've played multiplayer with voice chat on the PlayStation 4. When it comes to multiplayer games, I play all of my multiplayer games on either Xbox or PC, and that's just by habit. I pay for PlayStation Plus every year. I have the ability to do party chat. I have the ability to do multiplayer. But on the PlayStation, I use the PS4 mostly for role-playing games and for single-player games. And the Xbox is my multiplayer console. So I'm not even looking to have the Switch be this unbelievably social experience in terms of that. But by having a lack of a strategy for that, then it gives one more reason for people to say, well, I'm not pre-ordering it, or I'm not going to pick it up at launch because it doesn't feel like it's fully cooked yet, and I'm going to wait until the holidays. And so that's what concerns me about it, is that, the people who love Nintendo and the people who have bought every Nintendo console or have been with Nintendo for years and years, they're going to pick up the Switch. It's the attraction of new people to pick this up. It's trying to get the mainstream excited again about the Switch. And when you don't have those boxes ticked, then it gives people a reason to dismiss it. And I think that's what we're seeing, because as many articles as I see about how people are excited for the Switch, every major gaming news site has at least one article that is tearing down the launch of the Switch. And it feels like it's kind of that the general sentiment going into it is that people are already disappointed and it hasn't even launched yet.
Yeah, and I think the fact that, like you said earlier, that we're only 2 weeks out and there's still a lot of mystery about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Including like the user interface, except for the leaked video, that showed the UI and stuff, and obviously the online stuff that we've been talking about. I don't know. It's so weird to me that Nintendo can be such a massive corporation that's been in the gaming industry for this long, and yet it always seems that they have PR problems. And it's not like the normal ones that Xbox and PlayStation obviously have PR problems too, but it's just like, how in the world can you not understand that people want to see this stuff?
And they've shown flashes of brilliance in the past. Like, there have been times where you're like, oh, it looks like Nintendo's getting it together. Like when they did the Nintendo Treehouse Live at E3 for the first time, and they started doing the Nintendo Directs, and they basically took the message back from the gaming press and said, well, you guys are just crapping on everything we do all the time, so we're going to start putting out our own message. We're going to do the Nintendo Directs. We're going to do the Treehouse Live, where they had just a constant stream of developers come in, and we're doing game demos throughout all of E3. And the year that they did that for the first time, they basically, in the minds of many, won E3 with that approach. And so it's not that they're not capable of that stuff. It's just that every time we hope for them to take the next step in terms of how they message what they're going to do, they seem to fumble for no apparent reason. Like, no one's holding them back. Like, the stage is theirs right now. They're the only ones that are launching, this thing. The PS4 Pro is already out. The PS VR is already out, and the Scorpio isn't coming for several months now. And so they have the stage. No one is in their way. Just put your best foot forward and get people excited about this console.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the same thing the last generation. The Wii U launched at a time when the PS4 and Xbox One were not even close to being out, and so they had an opportunity to kind of jump in there in the middle of a console cycle and really be number one, even if it was just for a brief time. But same thing with the Wii U. It was just kind of, I don't know. It was. I love the Wii U. I still play the Wii U every once in a while, and it had some great ideas, but it still lacked some of those essential features that people look for in a gaming console. Not necessarily that I look for, but that the majority of people look for. Because like I said earlier, not everybody can afford to have multiple consoles. And so if you're choosing one based on the features that you want, which are multiplayer, online multiplayer with your friends, then you're automatically going to cross off the Wii U and now the Switch, if you, depending on, what that's going to look like. And so you're putting yourself at a disadvantage from the very start by not including features that have become ubiquitous since like the Xbox 360 and actually since the Xbox, really.
Well, and you're not leveraging your own base, right? So with one of the things that I struggled with the Wii U that I thought that they should have done from the get-go is, why would you not tie the 3DS more closely to the Wii U? You have this handheld console that has these screens on it, and now you've introduced the gamepad. To me, it was a no-brainer that the 3DS should have been able to function as another controller, as another gamepad for the Wii U. Like, you have all these people that have a 3DS that would have immediately brought them in and got them excited about that. When you look at the Switch now, I feel like they should be doing the opposite. They should be basically discontinuing the 3DS. They should figure out a way to make as many of the library of 3DS games as possible compatible on the new Switch, and this should be their one platform moving forward. It is both a portable and a television-based console. There's no reason that Nintendo can't have one platform moving forward, but every time they get asked about it, they are saying, nope, we're still going to keep making the 3DS, and we're going to keep making games for the 3DS. And you're continuing. I understand that they don't want to let down 3DS fans, but the 3DS is at a point in its life cycle now where it has peaked already. So instead of worrying about selling more 3DSs, why don't we start moving people over to the Switch by making them confident in the fact that this will be the one Nintendo platform moving forward? A lot of the games that are out for the 3DS now do not require both screens. For many of those games, the second screen is merely a menu or a map or something else, and you can find ways to do that either with sort of screen-in-screen on the Switch or through a mobile app that you can use as sort of a second screen experience. Like, that's been done with Xbox. That's been done with, there's no reason you can't figure those things out. And then you have this entire library of 3DS games that could be made available through the eShop. And you've now, so instead of launching with 10 games, or I'm looking at it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 games at launch, and really the big one is Legend of Zelda. 1-2 Switch, you could make the argument, is a game that some people will get excited about as launch, but you could have hundreds of games that you're launching with. This could be the console that unifies them all for Nintendo moving forward. So that's really where I hope that they go, and that's kind of why I'm disappointed that they haven't done that yet. And maybe they're just looking to get the Switch out there, and then they'll start talking about how they're going to phase out the 3DS, but they have people out there who want to be excited about this platform, and they seemingly, through the way that they message things, give people a reason to get off the bandwagon. And I just don't get that when you're trying to launch something new.
Yeah, and I don't know this, but you might. The game card that the Switch uses is a different size than the 3DS.
Size, yeah, which is
okay.
I'm gonna hope that was just from a hardware standpoint that they had to do something like that, because
I'm sure the games are a lot larger, and so you just have a little bit different technology.
But I mean, dating all the way back to the Super Nintendo, you had the Super Game Boy, where you could plug a cartridge into the Super Nintendo that would allow you to then plug in Game Boy cartridges and play Game Boy games on your Super Nintendo. I actually have one of those for the SNES clone that I have here at my house. And there's always a solution, dude. I mean, you could plug something into the dock that could play 3DS games or something like that. So there's no reason to not make that work, especially when you're sitting on a library of games.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is, you were talking about making them available on the store, but I think that would that would be great for some people, but for people that own 100 3DS games already, that would just frustrate them to not be able to move them over. So I really wish that they would come up with some way to just load them onto the micro SD card that the Switch uses, and be able to play them from there. And the Switch has a large enough screen that if you absolutely had to have a 2-screen thing, you could probably figure out a way with the user interface to integrate that.
Absolutely, dude, because people now, when they're playing on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, if you're doing anything with streaming, you've got a box in the corner that has your face in it, or the face of the person that you're talking to or whatever. So it's not like that's a foreign concept to people. You could even let people sort of drag and drop wherever they want that second screen experience to be, or you could, again, push it over to a phone and not use any of the real estate at all. So clearly there are solutions that are already out there for that. So to not have that be part of your strategy is a little bit of a head scratcher. And I think with them launching with Zelda, they have a little bit of a grace period because that is the game that everybody wants to play on the Switch when it comes out. And from what we've seen and heard so far, it looks like it's going to be amazing. So they have the goodwill around that game, but that's going to dissipate very quickly because when people pick up the Switch, once they finish Zelda, are they then putting that thing on the shelf until the holiday season when we get Mario, or until, Splatoon 2 comes, or until Mario Kart comes? So that's where you fill in the cracks with your back catalog of games. And that, to me, is where they need to start putting that strategy out there if there is one. And if there isn't one, they need to start working on it.
Yeah, because we know that those party games that they're launching with are not gonna last very long. Like, those are just kind of cute little fun things that people can do if they're all together or whatever, or if you got some kids or something. But that's not gonna really gonna cut it. So after Zelda, I really hope that they kind of get on the ball and launch some other thing. I mean, I know Skyrim is supposed to be coming. I don't know when that's happening, but they have some great third-party support so far from what I've seen.
I think they have enough for people not to completely panic yet, right? Because the Wii U didn't have any third-party support. So I think they have enough third-party support, or at least there's games that have been announced. Whether we see them or not, is always, you can't see into the future. But I think they have enough so that people aren't completely panicking yet. Yeah, Skyrim's going to be good. And I feel like with some of the ports they're bringing over, like Splatoon 2 is basically, a port and then some additional stuff for the Switch. I think that's exciting. I think, having Mario Kart is going to be exciting for that. So they just have to keep a steady stream, and they have to fill in the cracks with their back catalog in order to keep this in the forefront of people's minds. Because there's so many people nowadays that are looking for Nintendo to fail that they're going to be dooming this thing. They're already dooming this thing now, but they're definitely going to be waiting for the sales to not be what people thought they were or whatever. And I am someone, and I know you are as well, who is always rooting for Nintendo. We grew up with Nintendo. And I'm obviously older than you. I really grew up with Nintendo, and I absolutely love Nintendo. And so I want them to succeed with this. As we said, you and I are both buying it, but there's some parts of the strategy that they have to really smooth out over the first few months of launch, or they're going to give people an excuse to not be excited about it. And that would be unfortunate.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I always rooting for Nintendo, and I really, 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 really hope that they're able to sway the people that are kind of on the fence, because I want to see people support it. And I want to see people buy it and enjoy it. And that way third-party developers will continue to support it as well. Because that was really the biggest death for the Wii U, was when third-party developers dropped out. And there was really no reason to play it except for the occasional Nintendo game.
Well, that and I think the fact that they were in the console space where they were still competing with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, right? And so because it was so underpowered compared to those consoles, it really, it launched at that weird time sort of in between, and then it was quickly overshadowed, which is why I don't know why they're even talking about other consoles and billing this as a major console, when in reality they should be essentially marketing this against what the PS Vita was, and it, sort of as an evolution of the 3DS, because that's where they could really shine, is by saying this is a portable gaming console that is better than any portable that's come before. Oh, and you can also play it on your TV. And I think that's where they would have a much stronger hand to play than trying to even be in a conversation about the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. Because with the Scorpio coming out soon and with the PS4 Pro out now, like, that gap is only going to get wider in terms of the fidelity of those consoles and stuff like that. So stay away from that and lean on what you have done really well, which is the handheld stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Well, there you go. That's our thoughts pre Switch launch, and that is the first episode of the co-op party chat. So we're going to actually be back again next time and talk about some of the games that are coming out over the month of March. So let us know if you're pre-ordering the Switch. Let us know if you are excited about the launch of the Switch or what some of your concerns are. Obviously, we'll be talking about this console because we're both picking it up, and we'll be, following how it plays out over the next several months. So there'll be a lot more Switch talk. But until next time, this is Brian and Nick signing off, and we will talk to you soon.
See you later.